The lion drives into the hunt like a burst of muscle, fast, precise, and decisive. But on the open savanna, the obstacle is not always the prey. Sometimes it is another hunter. When eyes lock, the hunt transforms into an immediate contest for control. Power does not lie in a roar, but in closing the distance at exactly the right moment. Miss the timing by even a fraction, and it becomes clear who truly holds dominance. The spotted hyena is not simply a scavenger, as it is often misunderstood. It is a persistent hunter, living within a tightly structured matriarchal society where females hold authority and the clan operates through discipline. Behind its lean appearance lies a powerful jaw with an estimated bite force of around 1,100 psi, not used only for confrontation, but to apply psychological pressure. Its sharp calls carry across the savanna like a rally signal, announcing the clan's presence. Lions and hyenas share the same hunting grounds, so tension rarely fades. Overlapping territories, limited food resources, and even a small lapse can be enough to shift the balance. This is not an emotional rivalry, but an inevitable outcome of ecological competition. When a lioness is still guarding a kill, gray shapes begin to emerge along the edge of the grass. The hyenas do not rush in. They move slowly, tightening their formation, constantly changing angles, forcing the opponent to monitor multiple directions at once. The pressure comes from numbers and persistence, each step a silent test of boundaries. Then a male lion appears, weighing roughly 330 to 550 pounds, standing like a moving landmark on the open plain. A decisive advance, a few deep roars, and the hyena formation hesitates, retreating from the open ground. On the savanna, this is not a story of victory or defeat, but of how species reset boundaries, allowing the ecological cycle to continue on its own rhythm.
Red has ventured out alone.
In the rivers and wetlands of Africa, the Nile crocodile stands as an ancient hunting machine. Stretching over 15 feet in length and weighing more than 1,000 pounds, it is armored muscle shaped for the art of ambush. Its strength is not built on speed, but on patience, remaining motionless beneath the surface, waiting for the moment a single step lands too close to the water's edge. In an instant, calm water can turn into a trap. Even so, cases where a crocodile fully overpowers an adult lion are uncommon. Most encounters end as boundary tests, rather than full engagement. Both animals recognize that a single reckless moment can cost days of lost energy, making timely withdrawal the wiser choice. For lion cubs, the balance is far more fragile. One slip along the shoreline can create a brief opening for the crocodile to act. Although the pride may rush in to protect them, many situations unfold too quickly for an effective response. On land, the dynamic shifts. Lions are more agile and quicker to react, able to apply pressure that forces the crocodile away from deep water, where its primary advantage no longer holds. This encounter clearly maps nature's balance of power. Water belongs to the crocodile. Solid ground is the lion's domain. And the lesson remains unchanged. True strength lies in standing in the right place within one's environment. On the African savanna, lions are not the only force capable of shaping order. Among potential challengers, African wild dogs are often regarded as a formidable presence, even though each individual weighs only about 50 pounds, far smaller than an adult male lion that can exceed 400 pounds. The strength of wild dogs does not come from muscle, but from how they operate as a unified system. Living in packs of 10 to 20 individuals, they combine speed and endurance to pursue prey over long distances, rotating pressure continuously until the target is exhausted. This strategy gives wild dogs one of the highest hunting success rates on the savanna. But boldness always carries risk. When a pack of wild dogs, especially less experienced individuals, moves too close to a lion's hunting grounds, the situation shifts from food gathering to a test of territory. The lion's response is often swift and decisive. With a clear advantage in strength, a single well-timed advance can be enough to break a formation that depends entirely on cohesion. This encounter reveals two opposing survival strategies. Wild dogs rely on speed and collective effort, while lions invest in power and control of space. On the savanna, status is not maintained by title, but by the ability to repeatedly assert one's role within a highly competitive ecosystem. When a rhinoceros steps into the open savanna, the rhythm of the surrounding space shifts immediately. Even lions, the predators at the top of the food chain, do not rush forward. What stands before them is not prey, but a massive biological presence weighing over 5,000 pounds, moving like a living fortress. Skin nearly 2 inches thick functions as natural armor, absorbing impact and limiting harm. At the front, a horn approaching 5 feet in length serves not only as a defensive tool, but as a clear warning of the cost of recklessness. Formed from dense keratin, each forward thrust carries enough force to make any approaching animal reassess the risk. Lions still possess speed and explosive power. In rare situations, they may attempt approaches once effective against prey, such as zebras. But against the rhinoceros's overwhelming mass, those advantages quickly lose relevance. Most encounters conclude in restrained tension. The lion's gaze is not driven by fear, but by calculation, conserving energy for hunts where the odds truly fall in its favor. Beyond sheer size, elephants possess advanced intelligence and long-term memory, factors that tilt any encounter with lions toward caution from the very start. When danger is detected, a herd releases low-frequency sounds that can travel more than 6 miles, while rapidly tightening formation and moving calves into the protected center. An adult African elephant can weigh over 12,000 pounds and stand more than 10 feet tall at the shoulder, making it the largest land animal on Earth. Tusks stretching close to 10 feet, combined with a highly flexible trunk, serve not only as tools for survival, but also as a means of controlling surrounding space, forcing any threat to keep its distance. In rare encounters, lions usually limit themselves to distant observation, scanning for openings around younger individuals. Yet constant vigilance and precise coordination within the herd quickly stall such calculations. Even when a calf drifts briefly out of position, the risk still weighs heavily against the predator. And with a single advance from an adult elephant, the outcome is immediately settled. Lions withdraw, revealing an undeniable ecological rule. When physical power aligns with collective intelligence and disciplined group behavior, elephants stand nearly unmatched on land. Within Africa's river ecosystems, the hippopotamus is one of the animals that forces every predator to think carefully before drawing near. A fully grown individual can weigh over 3,000 pounds, with a massive body and a jaw capable of delivering nearly 1,800 psi of bite force, enough to turn any misjudgment into a costly mistake. For most of the daytime hours, hippos remain submerged to escape the intense heat. After nightfall, they leave the water and move slowly onto land to feed. This daily rhythm is one reason lions rarely view hippos as viable targets. Only young, injured, or accidentally separated individuals are ever considered. Even when a rare opportunity presents itself, a pride approaches with extreme caution. There is no direct rush. Instead, lions spread out, maintain distance, and test reactions from multiple angles. Facing an animal that can open its jaws to nearly 150 degrees, with canine teeth exceeding 20 inches in length, and the ability to accelerate up to 20 miles per hour on land, every movement must be precisely calculated. Such encounters rarely conclude quickly. They are tests of patience and situational awareness. At times, lions may exploit a brief opening, but just as often they are forced to withdraw when an adult hippo holds its ground, relying on sheer mass, endurance, and the advantage of riverbank terrain. In nature, no outcome is ever guaranteed. Charging forward like a raging storm, without warning and without retreat, the grizzly bear stands as the absolute ruler of North America. Raw, primal power erupts with every movement, each blow carrying devastating force, its jaws overwhelming all boundaries of survival. Its massive body surges into confrontation, dominating any opponent within a single fleeting breath. And when its roar rips through the forest, fear is officially born. Summer in the interior of North America stretches the grasslands endlessly, yet abundance does not guarantee safety. Prolonged heat forces elk herds across the plains to break into smaller groups, moving constantly between sparse grazing areas in search of food and water. Among them stands a fully grown bull elk, weighing around 700 pounds and nearly 5 feet tall, distinguished by a broad, multi-branched rack reaching up to 4 feet long. An emblem of strength, but also an open challenge to any predator. As the herd's alertness begins to fade, the encounter unfolds. A familiar tactic is used to disrupt the elk formation through sudden appearances. In that moment, a younger individual falls out of rhythm and is quickly separated from the group's protection. The energy gained is immediate, but for the grizzly bear, it is not yet enough. Concealed along the forest's edge, the predator shifts toward a bolder objective, a full-grown adult. Rather than pursuing blindly across the open plain, the grizzly patiently steers the target toward unfavorable ground. Familiar escape routes slowly close off, guiding the elk into water nearly 3 feet deep, where agility is sharply reduced. At a narrow stream or shallow river crossing, the confrontation reaches its peak. The elk struggles to maintain balance, driving forceful charges, but the grizzly's superior weight and endurance steadily take control of the space. After several minutes of intense resistance, the bear moves in close and gains full control. The reward exceeds 100,000 calories, enough for the grizzly bear to build the fat reserves needed for the harsh winter ahead. It guards the carcass from scavengers, covers it with soil for storage, and feeds gradually over many days. Across the open plains, this stands as proof that strength alone is only a requirement. Strategy and the ability to use terrain ultimately decide who remains standing. In Alaska, as daylight steadily shortens and food sources become entirely seasonal, the grizzly bear's internal clock begins its countdown. It enters the most critical survival phase of the year, hyperphagia, the period of constant feeding to store energy for the approaching winter. This survival pressure is most clearly seen at Brooks Falls. Here, sockeye salmon expend every remaining ounce of strength to clear rock ledges nearly 3 feet high, fighting strong currents to complete their life cycle. This final journey unintentionally turns them into an ideal food source. At the falls alone, A single salmon season can sustain more than 50 grizzly bears, from large adults to young cubs, all dependent on this brief migration window. Within the rushing water, rapid strikes and claws nearly 4 inches long allow the bears to catch fish with remarkable precision. A fully grown grizzly can consume up to 100,000 calories in less than a week, an amount of energy equal to hundreds of human meals. As autumn advances, the rhythm shifts. The salmon weaken after their final journey, their silver scales fading into deep red, a clear sign that the cycle is nearing its end. The grizzlies no longer need intense effort. They wade through shallow water only a few inches deep, collecting what remains in the current. This fat and protein-rich nutrition is quickly converted into a thick layer of fat, up to 5 inches deep beneath the skin. Not just energy, but a safeguard against the brutal Alaskan winter, where temperatures can drop to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit. When the bears leave the riverbanks, what remains of the salmon continues to support birds, insects, and the riverside ecosystem. A reminder that each hunt shapes not only individual survival, but the balance of the northern wilderness itself. Grizzly bears bury their kills beneath soil and decaying leaves to protect vital energy reserves. Yet the scent still travels through the cold air, drawing in other predators. The wolf pack does not rush in head-on. It spreads out in a wide arc, keeping a safe distance, moving constantly, and delivering quick nips to the hind legs to wear the opponent down. The grizzly turns, lowers its stance, and remains ready to respond. Most of these standoffs last for tens of minutes without a clear outcome. When risk outweighs reward, the pack withdraws through subtle signals. This is a contest of endurance, where if the balance of numbers exceeds roughly 3-1, the bear may be forced to give ground. Even so, against a fully grown male grizzly weighing over 600 pounds, wolves usually require a far greater advantage to alter the situation. In the end, the one that remains is not always the strongest, but the most patient, because in the wild, energy and time are weapons as well. Within the vast taiga wilderness, the grizzly bear is not merely an 800-pound mass of raw muscle, but a quiet and calculating predator. It reads every signal of the forest, uses the direction of the wind to conceal its scent, and patiently waits along migration trails where deer herds often pause after long journeys. When a brief opening appears, the stillness is instantly broken. The massive body unleashes its strength, accelerating up to 35 miles per hour and surging forward like a force of muscle aimed at the prey. The grizzly does not rely on extended chases. Instead, it spreads panic, breaking the herd apart and forcing weaker individuals or young to reveal themselves. Even without a clear visual, its keen sense of smell allows the bear to detect prey from miles away. Within the tangled maze of fallen trees in the taiga, the grizzly turns the terrain into an advantage. A single mistimed moment is enough for a decisive strike to conclude the hunt, and the cycle of survival continues under the enduring rules of the forest. The grizzly bear stands as a symbol of North America's wild strength. Yet its greatest threat often comes from its own kind. With the arrival of another grizzly, the balance of survival can shift instantly. In resource-rich areas, conflict often begins in silence. Two individuals face one another at a distance of just 20 feet, under air chilled to around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. There are no thunderous roars, only slow circling steps, and the display of massive muscle, power capable of overpowering a full-grown moose. This is not a contest of speed, but a test of resolve. The one that hesitates first loses access to valuable food. During the breeding season, these confrontations carry even greater meaning. The struggle is no longer only about food, but also about mating rights. Heavy breathing, ground-shaking steps, and unbroken eye contact are used to measure strength, experience, and willingness to take risk. When boundaries are crossed, the standoff can escalate within seconds and end just as quickly. One bear withdraws, yielding territory, food, or breeding opportunity to the one that remains. In the world of grizzly bears, victory is not defined by overpowering another. It lies in avoiding unnecessary loss. The true measure of strength is not the force of a single strike, but the ability to endure the long winter ahead. And sometimes, stepping away from today's conflict is the only way to remain present tomorrow. Across the vast grasslands of Yellowstone, North American bison stand like living fortresses. Each individual weighs over 2,000 pounds, with massive shoulder muscles and horns nearly 2 feet long. Strength and defensive power that make them formidable opponents in the wild. Against such collective force, the grizzly bear rarely chooses direct confrontation. Instead, it moves quietly alongside the herd, keeping a safe distance and waiting. In this kind of hunt, patience becomes the primary weapon. Then the ground begins to tremble. A full-grown bison detects the threat and charges at nearly 35 miles per hour. The grizzly immediately pulls back to avoid a head-on clash. Yet the true objective is achieved. Confusion spreads through the herd, and the slowest calf is separated from the protective circle. Moments later, the mother bison turns back in anger, delivering powerful kicks. Even so, the outcome is already set. The encounter ends before the balance can shift, and the young calf becomes the reward for a predator that knows how to wait. And when fortune continues to favor the patient hunter, an aging bison weakened by exhaustion and falling behind can quickly become a critical source of energy, allowing the grizzly bear to maintain its condition as a harsh season draws closer. As the sun sinks lower and tracks begin to fade, the rules of the savanna still hold their weight. For those who wish to continue following encounters shaped by instinct and strategy, a like helps support the journey. Subscribing ensures the next episode is not missed, where each species reveals a different way to endure. Because in nature, power is not meant to disrupt, but to preserve balance across the land.